in Genesis 17. 17 is the number for transformation, the change that takes place. Because in Genesis 17, you have a transformation from Abram to Abraham, from Sarai to Sarah, and is that letter. It's in Hebrew, it's hey, and it involves breath. So God was putting breath into Abram. Now he's Abraham. You see the spirit there, okay? And so that's what that is. Number 17 is the number for transformation. So in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord. That's our transformation. And so, but anyway, Genesis 12, God is giving a promise to Abram and to his seed even before he changes his name, even before circumcision, even before the law. Before Abraham had done any works, God is giving his promise to Abram. And so in Genesis 12, now the Lord had said to Abram, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. The land does not belong to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. It does not belong to the United Nations, does not belong to the Vatican, does not belong to the Muslims. It does not belong to them. The land belongs to Israel. Now God is allowing them and these other nations to have control and power over it because of Israel's hard-heartedness. But when God says, let's go, then all of a sudden that land is going to be given back to them. God makes a promise, and when God makes promises, he does not break his promises. So he said, verse 2, I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them, verse 3, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. In thee, which means that Abraham carried in his loins at this time Christ. Jesus was of the seed of Abraham. And now Christ, the seed, the DNA, is being carried in Abraham at this time. And God said, I will, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And so that blessing was Christ, who came from the seed of Abraham. Read Matthew chapter 1. This is the book of the generation of Jesus Christ. It starts with Abraham and moves its way all the way down to Jesus Christ. And it shows you that he came from the seed of Abraham. God was fulfilling his promise and gave evidence of that by giving Jesus 12 disciples who followed him. And when Jesus left, those 12 disciples were the testimony of God's promise, not only to Israel, but now to the unbelieving Gentiles who had not been given the law, had not been given the earthly promised land. We haven't been given anything by God, and yet God now is showing forth his promise to us Gentiles by way of the 12 apostles who are teaching us the doctrines of God. And so that number 12 is a number of promise. Now, here's what I'm going to say this morning, okay? The seed of Abraham through Isaac, and then through Jacob, and then through the 12 tribes, do not replace them with anybody else. The Mormon church replaces them with the Mormons. And the Mormons are told that you are of the tribe of whatever, you're priest after the order of Melchizedek, you are this, you're that, you're the other. And the Mormon church replaces Israel. If Mitt Romney shows support for the state of Israel, he is lying through his teeth, because his own doctrine teaches that he is Israel now. That's what he believes in his mind. Okay? Brady. I asked Brady specifically, what tribe are you from, Brady? Because the 144,000 of the Jehovah's Witnesses have replaced the 12 tribes of Israel. And Brady said, those are spiritual. tribes. And in J-Dub talk, it means they're nothing. And isn't that amazing how we use... Matthew, go to FileZilla and stop the upload. Okay, we can't upload until probably lunch. Okay? Cancel out of the program, I think. Did it work? Okay, good deal. All right. Where was I? They replaced Israel. A lot of Protestant churches, the Roman Catholic Church replaces Israel. They think that now they are Israel. They think that God, whatever God promised to the Jews doesn't mean that anymore. This is why the Vatican, for 1800 years or whatever they've been around, this is why the Vatican has hated Israel, and the Vatican wants control of Jerusalem. They do. The Vatican, the Pope has always wanted to sit in Jerusalem and reign over the world from Jerusalem. Okay? When you see things going on in the Middle East concerning Jerusalem, earthly Jerusalem, you can rest assured. See, there is a battle over Jerusalem right now. And all the devil's forces are not on the same side. They're all on the side that they hate God and hate God's people. But they are all not working together. The Vatican, they hate the Zionist Jews. They hate the Muslims. They hate this. They all hate them. They all hate one another, and they're not really working together the way you think they are. Okay? They're not. And this is how we know that the devil's kingdom will not stand, because it is divided against itself. Okay? And that just came to me one day, because I had it in my mind that all the evil forces, they're working together. No, they're not. It's trying to put honor among thieves. It's kind of like thieves coming to an agreement that when they rob the bank, they will all get an equal share. But we all know for a fact that when the money comes out and they've got it, if there's 5 thieves, 4 of them are going to get shot. You see how it works? Not even devils work together. They hate each other. They're full of hate. They're vile. They're mean. They're vicious. And so anyway, but they're trying to gain control over Jerusalem. They want to own Jerusalem because they think carnally. They think earthly. They think if they can control Jerusalem, it's just like the Israelites pulling the Ark of the Covenant out saying, it will save us. They think carnal things will save them. That's how they think. And so they're trying to gain control of Jerusalem. And God has allowed it now for all of these years, that at some point he's going to put a stop to it. And when Jesus comes back, he himself will reign from Jerusalem. You believe that? You believe the Bible. For how long? You should believe what the Bible says. Well, I've always understood, Pastor, that 1,000 years is like just a long expanse of time. Well, it is. But if God said 1,000 years, God meant 1,000 years. God doesn't lie. God does not exaggerate the way we do. God doesn't talk the way we talk. Have you ever noticed that? Okay? And when God says it, he means what he says. Okay? So the Jehovah's Witnesses replace Israel. The Mormons replace Israel. The Roman Catholic replaces Israel. And now we're seeing Protestant churches, Baptist churches, Pentecostal, we're seeing everybody saying, we are Israel. We are Israel. We are Israel. We're the Jews. We're this and that and the other. And let me just say this, because I'm going to talk about the glory and the salvation of Israel. Okay? I'm going to tell you this. If you want God's curse on your life, curse Israel. If you want God's curse on your family, curse Israel. Replace them with something else. Go ahead and be unbiblical concerning Israel. If you want God's curse, if you want God's judgment down on you, curse Israel, because it'll happen. God made an unconditional promise to Abram and to his seed forever. I will bless them that bless you, and I will curse them that curse you. You see how simple that is? And the reason why I believe that we're seeing one denomination after another topple and turn against Christ is that they have turned against the seed of Abraham. Okay? So I'm telling you, forget about your amillennialism, forget about your preterism, Forget about your conspiracy theories that says that the Jews right now are not really Jews, they're fake. And if you're a white, Caucasian, Irish woman, you're really Israel. It's called British Israelism. It is a lie out of hell. I studied it because I thought, okay, boy, this is something, maybe this is true. And I studied it out. I went to Scripture. I studied what they said. And I'm telling you, British Israelism is a lie. British Israelism teaches that the 10 north tribes were carried out of the land of Israel and carried up through Assyria, that they went through the Caucasus Mountains and settled into Great Britain, Denmark, London, Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, places like that, Great Britain especially, Ireland and Scotland. And that then they migrated into this country. And British Israelism says that because the reason why God blesses America is because the Jews are living here, and if you're white, you're a Jew, and you don't know you are. You're lost. You're a lost tribe. Let me tell you something. That's not true. The Israelites have always maintained their tribal identity somehow, some way. They've done it through last names, like the name, like Lowe's over here, the lumberyard. Lowe's is a German family, a German name. The L-O-W-E is spelled differently in different dialects, but it means lion. That family is from Judah. And they have always found ways of maintaining their tribal identity now for 2,000 years, 3,000 years. They're not lost. God knows exactly where they are. Don't let some conspiracy whack job on the internet tell you that the Jews, like Benjamin Netanyahu, he's not Jew. He's not Jew. He's something else, the Khazars or something like that. I don't know where they come up with this stuff. They're not real Jews. The real Jews, I'm a real Jew because I'm white and Caucasian. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you what, 99 groups out of 100 that believe in British Israelism are racist at the core. They believe that if you're anything else but a white Caucasian, you have no soul and you're doomed to hell. You're the seed of Satan. That's what they teach. Get your theology and get your stuff right from the Bible first. Amen. And then test what you see on the internet against what's in this Bible. Amen. In fact, if it helps you, turn that stupid computer off for a while. And you just I'm going to tell you what I told these two guys to do. Get away from the Kingdom Hall, get away from them guys at the Mormon church, and get your King James Bible out, go out in the woods and read it until you get it settled in your heart. And that's exactly how it happened with them. It's exactly how they got saved and how they're here today. Okay?
I have 2 books at my bedside, Lieutenant. The Marine Corps Code of Conduct and the King James Bible.
I hate snakes, Chuck! I hate them! And may the Christian Lord guide my hand against your Roman popery!
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
We're on a mission from God.
Entitled, you want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Maybe we should chug on over to Mamby-Pamby land, where maybe we can find some self-confidence for you, you jackwagon!
Coming to you live from his padded cell high atop Bethel Church, the most heralded, the most despised talk show in all of human history. This is the talk show Hell Hates. This is coming to you live from our top secret broadcasting bunker here at Area 52. This is Pastor Mike, and I am online, and I am live with you, and I am no longer on vacation. I came back. The Lord delivered me back to the work that I love so much, that I have more fun at work. I can only hope and pray that you enjoy your job as much as I enjoy mine. Now, I can't say that I enjoy every part of it, but I have a ball. And again, glad to be back with you. Sweetie Pie and I, we took a little vacation, a little one. Brother Ron Dagonia, who fills in for me at times here at Bethel Church. I've known him for years. He is actually related to Sweetie Pie's mom, Sister Gloria, here at Bethel Church. and Brother Ron and his wife, Charlotte, and his daughter and husband, and Lisa's mom and dad, and then Sweetie Pie and I and Caleb went on what was my first ever in the world ocean cruise. And it was a good experience for me. I like boats and ships anyway. My dad worked as a dredging inspector for the Corps of Engineers on the Mississippi River, and I used to go on that boat with him. That was the Dredge Kennedy, and I loved it. At one time in my teenage years, I thought, man, I want to do this, and God had other plans. I'd never sailed at sea before, and this was quite an experience for me. I've been sitting here in this room all day, and I still have the effects of wave motion. Okay, if you've never sailed at sea, it's hard to explain, because if you spend all this time on that ship or that vessel, and then you come off for days afterward, you're still seeing the world going like this. I didn't get seasick. It was, in fact, the travel from Cozumel, Mexico, back to Miami on this thing. This cold front was moving down from the Canadians. Thanks a lot, and the wind was blowing, and it was the waves were coming up. We saw this amazing white caps all over the ocean coming back Saturday, and Saturday and Saturday night, early Sunday morning. I mean, that ship was rocking. And but anyway, we went to Roatan Island, which is part of Honduras, and took a little tour. It's a very long island, about 35 miles long, about 4 feet wide. No, actually, I think it's about 4 miles wide. But anyway, that was a great experience. Did a little shopping there. Take Sweetie Pie. She likes to go in these little shops and buying stuff for the grandkids. And then we sailed to an island that Norwegian Cruise Lines, I think they pretty much own this part of the island. It's just off of Belize. And from what I understand, Belize is a country that formerly a British colony. They speak English there and Spanish and a lot of other dialects. But from what I understand, cruise ships used to, and I think some of them still, went to the mainland of Belize, and there's a lot of gang activity there. And I think Norwegian decided, we're not going there anymore. So they developed part of this island off of Belize. And if you don't drink, and you don't like sitting at water bars, and you don't sit out in the sun nearly naked, there's really not much to do there. So I didn't even get off ship on this Belize island. Lisa and her mom went to a shopping part, didn't find anything, and came back early. And it was like it was almost 100 degrees in Belize. And back up here in Festus, Missouri, top secret broadcasting area, it was like 5 degrees. Big, huge difference. We're talking Fahrenheit here. And it was very cold here, very warm down there. And then we went to sail to Cozumel, Mexico, and a lot of shops there, great food. There's a Starbucks there, which I didn't go in. But anyway, we had a great time. Just sailing at sea, Sweetie Pie and I spending time. Caleb basically owned the entire top part of the ship. They had this obstacle course and mini golf and a buffet, and he would play for a while, go down and eat, come up, play for a while, go down and eat, come up, play for a while, go down and eat. That's how he spent his week. But anyway, glad to be back. Appreciate Evangelist Mike Hutzel, who is a wonderful, wonderful man of God, an outstanding Bible teacher, and he filled in and did way better than I ever could have here Sunday. And if you miss those services, Lindsay is just I've got grandkids now that are sick everywhere, and I'm not kidding you. Hunter, my youngest grandson, he was in the ER last night getting treatments He's got pneumonia. He's got viruses. He's got double ear infections. And Lindsay, I just informed that her daughter, what are my grandkids' name? Anyway, I've only got 10 of them. Anyway, there's ear infections and coughing going all around the grandkids here. And so anyway, she hasn't got the services from Sunday uploaded yet, but she's going to start working on those here shortly. So anyway, but I appreciate you letting me go. It was good to go. It's good to come back. Alicia came back from Kenya. Last night I picked her up at the airport, and some good things are happening there. We installed, and I'll just say this, if the Lord builds the house, your labor's not in vain. And God has supplied for us so that we can be able to do this. In Turkana, where our new radio station is, there's a problem with electricity up there. They run electricity on generators, and they shut them down for 2, sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day. And it's not good for a radio station to be shut down. So Michael, my son-in-law, his plan was, why don't we, they never get any rain up there. Sun shines all day long. Why don't we install solar panels and have them linked to batteries so that when they shut the power down, we're still powered up and we're still broadcasting? Great idea. And he's got those installed, and we are just buzzing and moving there in Samburu and Turkana. Again, that is the work of the Lord, but God has laid it upon your heart to give toward that ministry. And I want to say, number one, publicly, I praise the Lord for all that he has done. And I just spent a lot of time last week, just being away, just reflecting on everything that God has done. And I give him the praise and the glory and the honor. But I also say a thank you to you for letting God move in your heart to donate what you've donated for the work out there. And we don't know where it's going to lead. We don't know what it's going to do. We just believe that God is in it. And if God is in it, then God will bring the increase. And so we appreciate that. And you just continue to pray. Michael is still out there trying to get some things done. We want to try to get our own frequency. Right now, we're renting a frequency in Turkana. And one of the goals that he had was to try to get our own frequency there in Turkana that we own. And from what I hear, he was unable to do that. So pray toward that end. That would give that radio station stability. And there's actually, I don't want to speak much on it now, but there's a plan. And when I heard it, I just went, that is so cool. Radio stations are only good if people have a radio. Okay, and we're talking about an area of Kenya that is not quite with the 21st century, all right? And in some cases, they're not even with the 20th century. There is a plan that was proposed to us to distribute a means of the people to hear Bible Truth Radio, Kenya Bible Truth Radio in Turkana, in the outlying areas. And I don't want to say too much about it now, but it would require us getting our own frequency to have that stability. So you help us pray about that. And I'm not saying that God has told me if we get 1 million people praying, then that we can do. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. God doesn't need 1 million people to wake him up. God heard Elijah, a man with like passions. God listened to his prayer. Elijah asked God to not let it rain for 3.5 years, and it didn't rain a drop for 3.5 years. Joshua commanded the sun to stand still in its place and the moon to not move, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm not one of these name it, claim it guys. But I believe that if you pray in accordance with God's will and God's way, you don't have to worry about whether or not God is going to do what you want him to do. God is either going to do what you ask, or he's going to blow you away and do something better that you never thought of, and you'd be going, whoa, look at that. I mean, I ordered a hamburger, and they came back and said, here's a 16-ounce T-bone steak for you. How's that? And if that ever happens, don't complain that you didn't get a hamburger, okay? Just saying, don't complain you did not get a hamburger. Anyway, I've got a lot of things to talk about, as usual, but I'm going to start out with this. I want you to take I'll be using the authorized King James Version. And I don't know if you are experiencing what I'm experiencing, but I am already having problems with the streaming software today. It's not doing what I wanted. It's like freezing up every now and then, locking up, which probably means there's going to be an error in the recording, which means I'll have to fix it after I get done with this. But you're worth it. You're the reason why we do what we do. Exodus chapter 20. I got a phone call. And sometimes when I am not just deep into something and people they'll call up here and say, you take any phone calls? And I thought, yeah, you know what? I'll take this one. Didn't know who it was. I still only know, I think it's somebody named Ray. But you can call him Jay, or you can call him Johnny, or you can call him Sonny, but you don't have to call him Johnson, all right? Raymond J. Johnson Jr. is who it was. But anyway, he called. He said, yeah, hey, Pastor. I said, hey. He said, I got a question for you. I said, okay, shoot the works. He said, when are you going to start preaching and teaching on the mark of the beast and what it is? Now, in the back of my mind, when he said that, I'm playing this in the back of my mind because I'm suspecting something already. And what I'm suspecting is that this guy, rather than going to the scriptures for his understanding, his knowledge, and his wisdom, he has read the books of men, one probably called National Sunday Law. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. If I've gotten one copy of that, I've gotten probably 10 of them over the years. And he's been reading Ellen White, who, number one, was not an apostle. She was not a prophet. She was not a bishop, a deacon. She did not hold any of those offices because of a certain characteristic that she had. And that characteristic was she's a woman. And according to the scriptures, she is not allowed to usurp the authority over men in the church. And yet an entire denomination and then split off denominations of Ellen White's teaching, Seventh-day Adventists, and then all these fringe groups from that, like the Branch Davidian down in Waco, Texas, was a split off of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And there's a multitude of others. So I'm suspecting this in my mind when he asked me, when are you going to start teaching on what the mark of the beast is? And I said, my friend, I've been doing that for years. He said, well, what is it? I said, the mark of the beast is, now get ready for this answer, okay? Are you sitting down? Because this is going to, you'll have to really dig deep into the Greek and Hebrew to get this, okay? And I mean commentaries after commentaries. You're going to have to do a lot of study on this because, I mean, it's amazing how God gave me the answer. But when he asked me, what is the mark? I said, it's a mark. It's what it is. It's a mark. I said it's a mark in the right hand or in the forehead. He said, well, yeah, but what is it? I said, it's a mark in the right hand. He said, well, the Bible teaches that that it's the character of the beast. And I went, where did you get that from? What verse is that? He says, well, it's right there in the Greek. He said, the Greek word there for mark is charigma, and he said, that means character, and it's the character of the beast. And I went, no, it doesn't say that. Do you have another verse that says what you just said? And he starts double talking, and I said, okay, you know what? Let me do this, because I'm kind of doing some studying here of the Bible. And I said, let me kind of jump ahead, because I just want to ask you a question. Get to the point. What's your point? And he said, what do you mean? I said, maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm thinking that you have an agenda in calling me, and you want to try to maybe accuse me, or you want to try to trip me up on Sabbath keeping. And I said, I think that you have been sent by Ellen White to accuse me and all of the other brethren who worship the Lord. You want to accuse us of already receiving the mark of the beast, in that we go to church and worship the Lord in a corporate service on the first day of the week. And that's what you want to accuse me of. So unless I'm wrong, I think that's your agenda. I think that's the point that you're trying to make with me. Am I wrong? He goes, well, let's leave Ellen out of it. He didn't want to bring Ellen up. And I said, well, you can leave her out of it, but I'm telling you, that's where it came from. And I said, she had a familiar spirit that showed her false visions of how she saw heaven, and she saw the 10 Commandments blazing in glory there in heaven, around the throne of God. And she said, but the fourth commandment was blazing higher and stronger and brighter than all of the other commandments. And Ellen said that this angel, this spirit, told her that, yes, Christ did nail the 9 commandments to his cross, but the fourth commandment is still valid and it's still in place. And I said, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. So let's just get to it here, because I'm kind of running out of time with you already. And I was. And listen, I'm not always, if you call and say you're going to disagree with me about something, I'm not always going to try to get in your face with it. But let me tell you, I have a low tolerance for anybody who wants to try to assert that salvation and God's favor and blessing on you comes by any other means other than the grace of God and not the works of the law. And I'm pretty doggone adamant about that. I've got a tolerance of about that much. I mean, I'll let you talk for maybe a minute or two and let you spill it out what you believe. But if you want to try to come at me, my people, my friends, somebody I don't know anywhere with a salvation or a blessing from God that requires an obedience to one part, and I'm going to tell you something he said to me in a little bit, and you're just going to go, huh? But anybody who tries to impose a strict obedience to the law of God, I don't care if it's the whole law or one part of it, you try to impose that obedience as the basis of salvation, and I'm going to overtalk you. I'm going to tell you that more than likely, after I'm done talking, I'm going to hang the phone up. I mean, I just don't have much tolerance at all. Now, if it's a legitimate question, Pastor, somebody was trying to tell me this, and I'm just, I'm kind of confused because, they gave one verse of the Bible, and, they said I have to go to church on Saturday, and Sunday was, pagans, it's worshiping the sun and a Roman Catholic Church, and you're under the Vatican, and if you come to me with a question That's different. Because then I'm going to give you the Bible. I'm going to give you answers out of the Bible. But if you come to me going, hey, you're teaching false doctrine and you're cursed and you're going to have to stand before... If you try to impose upon me or anybody else an obedience to the works of the law as a means of salvation, then we're not going to talk long, and I'm going to overtalk you, and I'm not going to give you... Paul did not give the somewhats in the book of Galatians place, no, not so much as an hour. He didn't let them speak. He didn't let them talk. He didn't say, let's hear from brother so-and-so here, because he wants to, kind of inform us about a sacred name that we have to say, and, he wants people to be circumcised and keep the law in order to be saved. Let's hear him out. Paul never said that. Never said it. No, not one time. Paul said, we did not give them place. No, not for a minute. Paul did not allow someone to come in after he got done preaching his heart out about the grace of God and then say, okay, now brother Shaul here is going to come and tell us about how we have to keep the law, the Torah, in order to really be saved. In order to really get close to God, you keep part of the commandments. Paul, and I don't either. I just have no tolerance of it, because what it does is that it preys upon the weak. It preys upon the weak. It preys upon people who have come to the realization that they have little or no control over the desires of their flesh and their own pride. They fight it every day, and sometimes it feels like they lose the battle more often than not. And then someone comes along and starts demanding that they have to keep Sabbath, or they have to be circumcised, or they have to say Yeshua, or they have to give money, or they have to... all this other nonsense that everybody tells you have to do in order to get really, really, really close to God. I'm sick of it. I've had it. I don't tolerate it, and I'm not nice about it. I'm not nice. I was not, after I realized who this guy was and where he was coming from, I was not, we're just, really, maybe we can get along and we just have to agree to disagree. No, that's not me. That is not me. And so, anyway, I kept asking him. And in fact, let's do this. Let's get to it, okay? Exodus 20. Because what I asked him was, and I have asked this this is not my first rodeo, people, okay? I've ridden that bull before, okay? And this is the question that I ask people to explain to me, because they want to put me under the condemnation now of having the mark of the beast because we go to church on the day that the Pope said we had to go to church on. And there's this little booklet that goes, people send it to me all the time. It gets, you've probably seen a copy called National Sunday Law. And somebody, I don't know if it was Ellen or one of her offspring or whoever, somebody has come up with this idea that what's going to happen is that the beast is going to take over the entire world. He's going to send out a law that says, you have to go to church on Sunday in order to live on planet Earth. That's not in the Bible, people. Nowhere do you see in Scripture where the beast, false prophet, the whore, none of these is going to impose. They're going to drag people kicking and screaming. Paddy wagons are going to show up in your neighborhood, rounding people up, taking them in handcuffs, making them sit in a church on Sunday in order to not get their head cut off during the tribulation. That's what it's all about. And I've asked this question of the number of people that have called here that want to ask me, or they'll send me an email or whatever, and I'll just say, here's what I want you to do, because when I go stand before God, He is not going to judge me based upon what Joe Smith said, Ellen White said, Brigham Young said, Charles Taze Russell, Billy Graham, Pope Francis, or anybody else in the world. He's not going to judge me based upon what man thinks I ought to be judged on. He's going to judge me according to His word, His law. So as a lawyer in this courtroom, I'm going to examine the law to see whether or not I'm guilty or innocent. Exodus 20. And what I'm doing here is I'm hoping to arm you. I have a sword. It's a very specific sword. It's a sword designed to cut down. It's actually a sword-shield combo. It's a shield and a sword that is designed to fend off and then go on the offensive against those who wish to impose upon you this Sabbath, their version of Sabbath law keeping in order to be really saved like they are. Because they say that's the gospel. The gospel is go to church on Saturday and you'll be in like Flynn. Because Ellen White saw the fourth commandment shining, blazing brighter than the other 9 commandments. And she was told that Jesus did not nail commandment number 4 to the cross. So therefore, you have to go to church on Saturday. And what I'm doing is, this is very simple. If you get pulled over by a police officer and he says, excuse me, sir or ma'am, I noticed I got my radar out and I clocked you doing 55 miles an hour in this zone. Now, when you pulled over right next to the speed limit sign and you said, but it says speed limit 55 and you said I was doing 55. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Well, then why did you pull me over? Well, see, I look at that 55 sign and I sort of interpret it as I think that you ought to be doing 40 because the purpose of the 55 sign is to keep the highways safe. And I think you're much safer doing 40. And so I'm going to write you a ticket for breaking the law. Let the guy write his ticket and then inform him, I will see you in court. We'll go stand before a judge, and I'll see you in court because the sign says 55. So let's go to court over this thing. You're going to win the case. Look at Exodus 20, 10 Commandments here, okay? Exodus 20. Look in verse 8. That's where it's going to start here. Now, let me just say this to you. I'm going to cut ahead in our conversation that I had with this man because I could sense in his tone and the way he was talking that his boasting was that he went to church on the Sabbath. And I asked him the question, do you go to church on the Sabbath? Yes, when I can. Hold on a second. Hold on. Stop right here. Stop right here. What do you mean when you can? If it's a commandment and you just told me you don't always do it, what does that make you? And then he backpedals. No, I go on. I'm out there all the time on the Sabbath. Either it's me and the Lord or it's... And I said, that's not what you said. That's not what I asked you. And I said, here's my point. Do your eyes look at things that they should not look at and lust after them? Do you know what he said? He said, no, they don't. And I said, you're a liar. I don't believe you. No, the Holy Spirit delivered me from that years ago. And I said, I'm going to rephrase this question. I said, I'm going to be very specific about it. Do your eyes look at things that your body or your eyes or your heart desires? Do you covet? He said, covet what? I said, well, let's start with the list. Do you covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, your neighbor? Do you covet anything that belongs to your neighbor? Do you covet? You know what his answer to me was? He said, never. And I said, I don't believe you. You are lying through your teeth. And what the point I was going to make with him was, why tell me about how you say you keep the 4th commandment, but you break the 10th one? Does that not make you an equal transgressor with, let's see, everybody else in the whole world? But he lied to me. See, there's a verse in the Bible. There are people who will make lies their refuge. They will shield themselves with lies. I went on the offensive and I said to him, does your eyes look at things that either your eyes, your flesh, your heart covets and lusts after? And he said, no, it doesn't happen. He's lying through his teeth. And if he makes lies his refuge, there's no hope for him. You know what I told him? You want to hear what let me make sure there's nobody around, because I don't want this out, okay? You know what I told him? I said, mine do. My heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. It's deceitful above all things. My eyes have fastened onto things that don't belong to me, that I want. Do you not understand that most TV advertising is basically all about getting you to covet something that they want to try to sell you? Something that your neighbor probably has? I mean, that's just how it is. You might be pretty good at keeping many of the 10 commandments. But I guarantee you don't go all week unless you are blind. You do not go a solid week without lust of the eyes, without covetousness. You don't. I don't. I try hard. I want to honor the Lord. I want to honor I have a story to tell. Something that, man, it was just a blessing to me. But anyway, I want to honor the Lord in everything that I do and in every place. I want to honor my wife in every place that we go, every place that we go together, every place I go without her. I want to honor my wife in everything. But there is no way in the world, people, and you don't need to know all the little specifics about me, because I don't want to know yours either. But I'm not going to sit here with a Bible in my hand and tell you, I don't lust after things. The man made lies his refuge. And then his gospel is not based upon what the Bible said. His gospel was based upon what men said, and men are evil. When you put religion in the hands of men, they will corrupt it nearly every time. It is inherent in our nature to turn really, really good things into filth. Just consider the natural processes of your body. We were on a ship cruising. I ate some really good food last week. I don't have to explain to you what my body turned that food into. You get what I'm saying? You put anything in a man and he's going to corrupt it. That's the nature of his body. Look at the fourth commandment. Look at what it says. Verse 8, Exodus 20, 70th chapter of the Bible, 10 times 7. Isn't it something? 7 is the number for completion, perfection, purification. God did hallow the seventh day. He made it pure. It's a very holy day. The seventh day is. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Then, God didn't stop there, because God knows man. If God would have stopped there and said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, man has already done this, man would have taken that and then piled on burdens upon human beings that there would be no way in the world that they would be able to sustain it. Man has, with this commandment, piled on them burdens, heavy loads, requirements, stipulations, a few quid pro quos here, provisos, rules, regulations, guidelines, commandments, statutes. Man piles these things on people. If God would have stopped, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Well, to keep it holy means you got to do this and you got to do this. And if you don't do this and this and this and that and this and that and that, if you don't do these 24 things, then you're not keeping the Sabbath day. See, that's what man has already done with it. God explained exactly how to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. He didn't just say, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. He said, this is how I want you to do it. He said, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So God specifically pointed out to us in no uncertain terms, there's no ambiguity here. There's nothing it's a cloud, it's a haze, it's sort of a gray area. I don't really quite understand that. No, he's basically said, rest. And you know what the guy did, Ray that called me? He accused me of breaking the Sabbath by me and an evangelist Hutzel when he came here to preach here a few months ago. Sweetie Pie took him and Brittany. He's an avid Cardinal fan. We took him to a baseball game on Saturday, and he said, "You broke the commandment." And I said, "Wait a minute. I didn't labor on that day. I don't play baseball. I didn't have a uniform on. I only went to the baseball game. My labor is I'm not a baseball star. Always dreamed about it. But I'm not one. I'm a minister. My labor is in the gospel. And God even gave us ministers a day off. Even though our labor is always in the Lord and our labor is in the Word of God. I'd learned by way of God dealing with me about the issue to take a day off and rest. But anyway, he brings up this thing, and here's what I asked him. If you can show me in the Bible where I and my church are commanded to only worship God in a public place on one day of the week, and then forbids us from worshiping any other day of the week. If you can show me that in the Bible, I will gladly submit to it. And he said, remember to have a Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all that. And I said, yeah, that's what it says, and I believe every word of it. But you have not done what I ask you to do. If you can show me the verse, I need 2 of them. If you can show me one that says I am commanded as part of keeping and making holy the Sabbath day, if you can show me where I am to either attend or participate in a public worship service only on this one day, and I am forbidden from doing it any other day of the week, including the first day of the week. If you can show me that in the Bible, I will gladly submit to it. You see, because when I stand before God, He is not going to judge me based upon what Joe Smith or Ellen White said, or anybody else for that matter. There are people out there who hate my guts, call me false prophet, call me false teacher, call me a racist, call me all kinds of things. And I'm very, very, very thankful that they're not going to be the ones sitting on the throne, on the judgment seat, when I go stand before God. I already have an accuser of the brethren. And I'll tell you this. When it comes to me being judged on Judgment Day, I can already tell you there's a list of things 1.5 miles long that I have already broken as far as what God commands in His Word. It's kind of like a guy that's killed, 14, 15 people, cut their bodies all up and dismembered them, and then they sentence him to prison for life. They give him like 50 life terms. So if he dies and comes back again, he's still got to serve another life term. When he gets to prison, he's not worried about killing somebody else in prison. Oh, don't you kill somebody, because if you do in prison, that's another 30 years. What do I care? I'm in here for life. I ain't got nothing to lose. I can be a hired hitman here in prison and kill anybody that the guys want me to kill. Because what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Sentence me to more time? You see, the list of condemnation that I already have against me, adding another charge of not keeping a particular Sabbath day, just throw it on there, because I'm already guilty. If I broke one law, I'm guilty of the law. And I said, when I get to heaven and God judges me, I already have an attorney on my side. His name is Jesus Christ the righteous. He is my advocate with the Father. And God's judgment is always in righteousness. It is righteous judgment. God never says, well, Ellen had a point. Ellen White had a point. The fourth commandment. It could be interpreted as you have to go to church. It could be seen that way. That's not God. God said, I already sent the word. I told you to keep the Sabbath. I even told you how to do it. You rest. And the guy did. He accused me of breaking the Sabbath. I said, can I ask you a question? I said, how in the world do you even know what I did last Saturday? How do you know that? I said, to be honest with you, do you know what I did what was that, like 3 days ago? Does anybody listening to me know what I did last Saturday? I was on a cruise ship coming back from Cozumel, Mexico, headed back to Miami, and there was really nothing to do because we were going to be at sea all day and all night. You know what I did? Nothing. I sat down and we had conversations, me and Sterling and Brother Ron. We talked about church and, talked about this and, church-related stuff. And I studied the Bible a little bit that afternoon, got alone with God, had some prayer time. I needed the rest. After a hard week of vacation, I needed the rest, and I did. Normally, on Saturday, I'm at home. You know what I'm doing? Resting. I'm not here I used to be, but I'm not here at the church usually on Saturday. People, and I'll say this, I am one that I don't see God changing the Sabbath to another day. I don't see it. Some do. So, well, that's the Christian Sabbath. Sundays. I just don't see it. Maybe you do. Maybe you have a good reason. I think you ought to rest. I think you ought to take God's... See, Jesus told us what that commandment was for. He said, you were not made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man. It's for his benefit. And anybody who's ever worked a prolonged period of time of 7 days a week, they'll tell you, you get burnt out quick. God provided for us a blessing in that if we'll rest, we'll feel like getting up and going on the next day. But if you just drag it out for weeks on end and don't rest, it'll kill you. And God even had a Sabbath for the land. Why? Because God's smart. God knew to give the land a rest for 1 year. Give it a Sabbath rest. Sow your seed 6 years. Let it rest the seventh. I guarantee you start back up again, you're going to get good crops that next year. You got to let that land rest. Think about it. We were created from the dust of the earth. Us and this earth are like linked together. God gives the earth a rest. God gives us a rest. And normally on the Sabbath day, on Saturday, that's what I do. And you should too. Rest from your labors. But folks, don't ever forget this one thing. It is by grace that we are saved, not of works, lest any man should boast. And all 100, let me say 99.9% of anybody who is Sabbath keepers, sacred namers, Hebrew rootsers, Mormons, Roman Catholics, you name it. You name any of those religions that require a performance of a work in order to attain some sort of blessing from God, whether it be eternal life or riches or your family's healthy or whatever. Anybody who imposes on themselves and everybody else a work of righteousness in order to attain gratitude from God, they always boast about it. Always boast about it, and the truth be known, they don't do it 100% of the time either. They just want you to think that they do. While they boast of themselves and their performance and their works over you. See, it's all about that wicked nature that we have, the elevation of one man over another. Whether it be, I keep this law and I keep these laws over here, or whether it be, my bloodline is far superior to yours, or whether it be, we speak a holy language and you don't. And I'll be honest with you, it makes me sick. Makes me sick to see that. Because God, let's go to Romans. I've been on a ship with people from Mexico and Spain and Philippines and a lot of people that roll their R's. So I kind of pick up on that a little bit. Go to Romans. Oh, let's see here. Romans. Romans 2:11. Actually, let's back up to Romans chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore, thou art inexcusable, O man, whosoever thou art that judgest. For wherein thou judgest another, thou condemnest thyself. For thou that judgest doest the same thing. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Judge me with the law? Go ahead and judge me with the law. You yourself then are under condemnation because the very law that you use against me is also applied to thee, you. And then he says, we are sure, verse 2, that the judgment of God is according to truth against them which commit such things. And thinkest thou this, O man, that judgest them which do such things, and doest the same, that thou shalt escape the judgment of God? Look at verse 11. For there is no respect of persons with God. And you know what? I'm glad. There's no respect of persons. Because, listen, I'm telling you, there is, and there exists in practically every race on the earth, a concept of their own racial purity and superiority. The Japanese do it, white people do it, black people do it, the Chinese do it, Greeks do it, the French do it, the British do it, Russians do it. There's always this racial superiority. Our race is better than your race. Our race is better than yours. When the truth of it is, we were all made out of dirt. Okay? But we do. We respect persons. God does not. God is an equal opportunity Savior. Somebody, woo! Look at verse 12. For as many as have sinned without the law shall also perish without the law, and as many as have sinned in the law shall be judged by the law. For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified. And see, here's the difference between God's version of doing the law and man's version of doing the law. Man's version of doing the law is always a partial, I wanted to say the word doance. That's not a word. Doance. Okay? A partial doance of the word. It's never a complete one. There isn't a soul on this planet that can say, like this guy told me, my eyes never look on anything and lust after it. And I went, you liar. You're the biggest liar I've ever heard from in my life. I never look at anything and lust after it. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, he said in verse 14, for when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves, which show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience also bearing witness in their thoughts, the meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another. in the day when God shall judge the secrets of men by Jesus Christ according to my gospel. Did you hear that? Did you know that encoded in your DNA is a conscience that realizes that breaking the laws of God is wrong? And if you don't believe that, how many people in this world who don't even believe in God try to cover up an adulterous affair? Why? Because they know it's wrong. There aren't, I wouldn't say any men, but I'm just going to leave it with too many men. There aren't too many men in this world who sit down at the dinner table, have a nice dinner with their wife and family, gets up, grabs his jacket and hat and says, honey, the lady 3 doors down, she wanted me to, kind of go out with her on a date. And, I may be home tonight sometime. I may not. I may just sleep over there. You'll probably see me tomorrow. Okay, hon, have a good time. There's nobody that does that. They all know that it's wrong. Nobody that ever steals money and things from their work fills out a form and a report on it and submits it and tells his employers, this is, I only worked 35 hours this week, but I wrote 47 on my time card. Nobody ever does that. They try to hide it and cover it up. And that's why thou shalt not steal. There's not hardly anybody that commits first-degree murder, premeditated murder against somebody, and then drags the body to the police station and says, yeah, I've been meaning to kill this guy for weeks, and I worked it out to where I could. Here's the body. Here's the gun. My fingerprints are on it. Do I need a lawyer? Nobody ever does that. We all try to cover it up like Adam and Eve. That means, so you know what that means? That God hath concluded everyone under sin. And so, the Sabbath people, we keep the Sabbath. Yeah, but they steal. They lust. They hate their brother. They boast. They're full of pride. See, pride's a sin. Lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. What was that? What was that third one again? Pride of life. Look at my brand new house and car. That's pride of life. They say we keep the Sabbath, but they don't tell you what all the other... You'll get accused by people. You post some picture of your family, outside, inside, doesn't matter. Somebody on Facebook's going to go and examine everything in the scenery there, and they're going to say, did you see that? Did you see the way their 3-year-old had their fingers up in the air like this? They're Satan worshipers. They'll accuse you of all kinds of stuff and boast and say, I don't do those things. We don't have any part of that. Why, I saw a TV in their house. Everybody knows you can't watch TV. I don't watch TV. And my point is, these people boast against everybody else about what they say you do wrong. And they're just conveniently silent about things that they do that are wrong. But they're not going to tell anybody that. They're just going to boast their life over yours. God hath concluded. Oh, wait a minute. See, here it is in Romans 3:10. As it is written, there is none righteous. No, not one. Not one. Except Jesus Christ, the righteous. Turn to Romans 14. Romans 14. Because he asked me, why do you guys go to church on Sunday? And I said, why not? Why not? Why can't I? Why can't I and my people gather together Sunday morning, 10:45? Why can't we do that? We used to have Sunday evening church at 6. Did you know when I was a kid growing up here, it was 6:30? And somebody changed it to 6. And you know what I did? I changed it to 4 in the afternoon. Why can't we do that? Why can't we have a church service like Tuesday afternoon at 4:47 and 20 seconds? Why can't we start a church service at that time? Why? Stand fast, brethren, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled with the yoke of bondage. I've been set free. I don't want to go back. You're looking at someone who, in my younger days, was the definition of legalist. I was it. If there was a standard, I was on it, man. I had my hair cut short, didn't wear shorts, didn't listen to rock and roll. I mean, I had it all on the outside. On the inside, I was as rotten as Adolf Hitler, Charles Manson, Jay-Z. On the inside, I had nothing right in me. Romans 14. When do you want to go to church? It's Tuesday, 12:59 Central Time, p.m., here in Top Secret Broadcasting Compound. Let's have church. Romans 14, verse 4. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Do you know who my master is? My master is Jesus Christ. And I told Ray on the phone, I said, I am not required to answer to you. I'm not required of that. That's not, I don't have to say, well, I have to submit to him because his name's Ray. I mean, I have to do what he says. I don't belong to Ray. I don't belong to Ellen. I don't belong to Francis the Talking Pope. I don't belong to a denominational headquarters. I don't belong to them. I don't belong to a secret society. I don't belong to anything. I have to admit something. I've got to admit something. About 15 years ago, we had a guy come into our church, and he said, I like you, Pastor Mike. Well, I'm glad. He said, how would you like to be a Kentucky colonel? And I went, like Colonel Sanders? Does that mean, do I get free chicken? He said, no. He said, I'm a Kentucky colonel. It's like this, it started out with the militia back, in the 1800s. And then, now it's this, the governor gives you this big thing and says, you're a Kentucky colonel and, honorary. And, they meet at the Kentucky Derby with the women wearing the big hats, and they do all this philanthropic stuff. And he submitted my name. The governor of Kentucky sent me this big, long piece of paper saying that I am a bona fide Kentucky colonel. I don't know where the paper is anymore. I have no idea. But other than that, I don't belong to anybody's group. I'm a citizen of Jefferson County, the state of Missouri, United States of America. And I'm a citizen. I have joint citizenship. I'm a citizen of heaven. But other than that, I don't answer to someone else's judgment. I have enough just to answer to God's judgment. Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth. Yea, he shall be holden up, for God is able to make him stand. Do you remember when David transgressed the commandment of the Lord? God told David in no uncertain terms, don't number the armies. Now, there's a lot of, people say, well, God didn't want him to do that because he didn't want him to get boasted, proud about how many people he had in the army and he could do this and he did all this because he had all these army men. And that may be a good reason. We're not really told why. God just said, don't number them. Well, Satan provoked and he tempted David to number his armies, so David numbered his armies. And God sent the prophet, I think it might have been Nathan, but anyway, he sent the prophet and he said, David, you're in trouble. God told you not to do it. You did it. God's going to give you two options. A, he's going to put you in men's hands and they're going to judge you and take vengeance on you. Or you can submit yourself to God. And David said, men, I don't trust men. God, I trust God. Now, God may chasten me, but at the end, he's going to have mercy on me as a father has mercy upon his son. I'll submit to God's judgment. People, you don't belong. You don't belong to somebody on Facebook who is accusing you of this or telling you have to do that, or you're not doing this right, or you're not saying that word right, or whatever. You don't owe them. You don't owe them anything. They're not your master. And really, they have no business judging you as a servant of God. You're not their servant. Now, if you work for them, that's different. They can tell you, I don't like the work you're doing. You need to do it better. You can't go back to them and say, well, I only listen to God. Yeah, but you're an employee of McDonald's. You have to do what Ronald McDonald tells you to do. But don't let people drag you around and put you under their condemnation. You have been freed from that condemnation by your Heavenly Father. So he said, verse 5, one man esteemeth one day above another. Now, I'll say this. If you are convicted that you should hold some sort of worship time on Saturday, I am not here to defile your conscience. I'm not here to tell you, well, that's how they did it in the Old Testament. We're not under the law anymore. I think you ought to go to church on Sunday. I can't do that. I don't defile your conscience. I go through this every year. In fact, twice a year I go through this. Christmas and Easter. If you don't want to have an observance of Christ coming 2,000 years ago, you're not required in Scripture to do it. And I don't think you have to do it. And your purpose in not doing it is that you want to please the Lord. Hallelujah. But look at it. One man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regardeth it unto the Lord. And he that regardeth not the day to the Lord, he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. And he that eateth not, to the Lord he eateth not, and giveth God thanks. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. For whether we live unto the Lord, and whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live, therefore, or die, we are the Lord's. For to this end Christ both died and rose and revived, that he might be Lord both of the dead and the living. But why dost thou judge thy brother? Why? What stake do you have in it? What business is it of yours? I know pastors. I'm one of them. I'm around them. I've been in their company. I've fellowshiped with some good ones, and I've been around some guys that I'm just going, man, I'm glad I don't go to your church. Because there's some of these pastors. Jack Hiles was one of them. I probably got somebody going, he said, he's talking about the Hiles. Jack Hiles was Lord and master of that domain in Hammond, Indiana. And there were people in that church that didn't sell a house unless Jack approved. There are people in that church who didn't go on vacation unless Jack approved. And yet he himself, a sinner. I don't treat people that way. I try not to. I can't say I'm perfect at it. Good grief. I'm admitting my own sins to you. Why do we judge our brethren? Why do we do that? Because some people just like to be on top of everybody else. I get it. Some people just want to be above the congregation. Remember, did you hear what I just said? Some people just want to be above the congregation. What spirit is that? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation. There are just some people who have to put other people beneath them, so that they can sit on high over them and lord over them and rule over them and judge them. And that spirit does not come from Jesus Christ. That spirit comes from Lucifer. This idea that you have to be over everybody else and you look down. Listen, people, I'm telling you, I used to be so full of this. I did. My first year in Bible college, I don't talk about it much. My first year in Bible college, I was so arrogant and so cocky because I had these high standards. I didn't secretly listen to rock and roll music. I didn't fool around on girls, and I didn't do this, and I didn't do that. And I had such a cocky, arrogant nature. The worst student at this Bible college, his dad was one of the, he had a high office in this Bible college. And his dad, he was a pastor. His dad was a pastor, and then he was working at this Bible college, and his dad said, you come here 1 year to this Bible college, then I'll pay your way to where you want to go. And this boy, this son, he was my age, he was as lost as anybody I've ever known. And I knew what his deeds were. I knew what he did on weekends. I knew the music he listened to. And I put myself so high above him. And you know how it culminated? His hand around my throat, backed up against a wall, almost had me lifted up off the floor with his hand drew back like this. Because I smarted off to him in front of everybody. And he said, don't you ever talk to me that way again. And you know what occurred to me while I'm up there hanging like this, going, that I was surrounded by people that I thought were my friends. And not one of them came to my aid to tell me, oh, Mike, I'm so sorry he treated you that way because you're better than he. Not one. And by the end of the year, you know what it had occurred to me? That I had a reputation around that campus. Not as somebody's friend, not as a good guy, but as somebody who just picked everybody else apart. I had that reputation. I just waited to find out things that were wrong about other people. That's what occurred to me. And God dealt with me. God dealt with me. The next year, I'm a lot friendlier to people. I'm a lot more understanding of people. I'm not as high strung. By the time third year come around, they're electing me student body chaplain. The students then started trusting me to be their pastor on campus. And I started realizing this legalism thing. If you got standards, keep them. Live by them. But God did not give you these things for you to judge and look down on everybody else. They are there to make our lives better. But the truth of it is, while you don't have a TV in your home, you find that sin still knows how to get inside. Doesn't it? Be honest. Don't ever call me and say, Mike, I never lust after anybody. How dare you? Don't call me. Here's a question, and this you might disagree with. Okay, I've had this question asked several times. I'm not going to read the name. They submitted it Sunday, 6:07 p.m. And but I've had this asked before, and I'm not going to read the entire email. It gives out a little bit of too much information, but I appreciate. It's a lady that wrote it to me, and I'm going to call her. Let's see here. Let's pick a name here. I'm going to call you. You identify yourself as a horrible sinner who wants to honor and love the Lord, and I like that. So I'm going to call you Mary, not like the mother of Jesus, like Mary Magdalene. Is that okay? Okay, Mary M. Mary M. Asked the question, does God count a standard legal marriage certificate being the law of the land as a marriage? I ask this because I have been in an unwed relationship with a man and have children. Okay? She wants to honor the Lord. He's not so much. And she's asking me what I think, and can I give an answer to, do we need a state, a government approval of marriage in order to be married in God's eyes? Okay? That's the question. And I've had people ask me this, and my policy as a pastor, okay, I have authority recognized by the state of Missouri to officiate over wedding ceremonies and to sign a wedding certificate. When I officiate over a wedding ceremony, and the state does not tell me what words I have to put in there, what words I can't use. If you ask me to marry you and to whoever you're getting married to, if you're the woman, you're going to say obey. You're going to say it. That's just all there is to it. You want me to perform the ceremony? You're the woman. You're going to say to love, honor, and cherish, and obey. You're going to say it. I mean, that's just how it is. But the state doesn't tell me that I can or cannot do that. State does not issue me guidelines on, how many claps there has to be and what words I have to say, and I can't use that. The state doesn't do that. It just recognizes that I am a minister over an established congregation. I meet the requirements. I am their bishop. I can officiate over wedding ceremonies. And my policy is I don't do a wedding ceremony without a marriage certificate. I don't do it. Here's why. Romans 12. Romans 12, okay? Turn there. The Bible not only, and there's some people out there that are, I'll just be honest, they are anarchists. They have this idea that because there are bad people in our government, I don't have to listen to them. I don't have to obey the laws. There are people who are like that. I don't know that I can convince everybody that that's not really the way to be. There are, as citizens of heaven, there are requirements upon us to live our lives down here in a respectable and respected manner. Not going around acting like, that speed limit sign, that's man's laws. I don't have to do that. I don't have to follow that. I don't belong to that. I belong to God. Well, you're driving on the highway and you're living in the land. And some people don't see it that way, but Romans 12, verse, you know what? Let's go back a little bit. Go to verse 16. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. It's good advice. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. And there's other places in the New Testament that tells us to live under authority. Romans 13. Oh, he's going to say Romans. There's some people out there who wish Romans 13 was not in the Bible. And if anybody ever preaches Romans 13, woe be to them. I've been accused of all kinds of stuff because I preached a sermon on Romans 13. And you know what I did? I just read the scripture. You know what it says? Let every soul be subject unto the higher power. For there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Did you hear that? The powers that be. The powers that are in existence are ordained of God. And I've read articles where people said, at no time does God ever justify evil people to be in authority over. That is not true. That is not true. Who put the children of Israel under Pharaoh's authority? Who did it? God did. Providing things honest in the sight of all men. Here's what I tell people. You live in the United States of America. You're subject to rules and regulations just like everybody else is. Do you have insurance on your car, your house? Do you have health insurance? Do you have life insurance? Do you work? Do you get a paycheck? Do you fill out a tax form at the end of the year? The form that you filled out with the insurance company, the form that you filled out with the Social Security Administration, the form that you filled out to get food stamps, the form that you filled out to get public assistance with rent, the form that you filled out to get the Social Security retirement benefits, the form that you filled out in order to make sure that you paid the right amount of taxes, and if you did, to get a refund, and if not, to make up the difference at the end of the year. That's everybody has to do it. The thing that you filled out to get a driver's license. Here's my point. I can't say that these forms asked this, but a lot of them do. They ask the question, are you married? And here's your problem. The state of Missouri, the state of Quebec, the county of Surrey, England, wherever you may be, the Northern Territory, when they use the term marriage, they require, for you to qualify under the title of married, they require proof of a marriage certificate on file in the county recorder's office. So you fill out the form to pay taxes or to get the benefits or whatever it is. You, in your mind, well, we were married. We just didn't get married with a wedding certificate. Here's the thing. The state does not accept that you are married. The courts, if you go to court, if this guy or this gal turns out to be a jerk, and he runs out on you, and you've got kids, and you've got an automobile, and you're living in a house, you're renting it, or you own a mortgage on it, or whatever, courts can only make decisions on these things based upon whether you are married or not. It's accepted in courts that if you are legally married, then it's understood that we have to who gets what. But people, think about it. How many people, how many couples in this country are shacking up and they move in with one another and they're having romance for 2 or 3 months and they're living on that and they decide that they're going to join the bank accounts together, but she's finding out he has a work problem. He doesn't show up for work all the time, so he's sitting around just drawing money out of the account, and she finally gets tired of him, kicks him out. They go to court, and she wants all of her money back. She's not going to get it because they weren't married. Well, wedding ceremony, a guy came over and... Do you have a wedding certificate? No, we don't do that. Then you're not married. And here's the thing. You put down, you are to provide things honest in the sight of all men, not just the people you think that deserve it. And the state recognizes marriage based upon a certificate, and yet you put down on the form that you're married, but according to the state, you're not. You're being dishonest. Or you say, well, we really feel that we are married because we feel that God brought us together. We don't need the state to tell us that. Okay, if you really think that way, you have to put down on the form that you're unmarried because the state says you're not married because you don't have a certificate. So you put down that you're not married, but you have contradicted yourself in that you believe that you are. Do you see the chaos? You see the turmoil here? Do you see the quandary? You're going to have to be dishonest and mislead somebody, whether it's the state, the insurance company, the people who own the loan on your car or your house, or the people that you're renting from. You're going to have to be dishonest with them and mislead them, or you're going to have to contradict yourself because you say, well, I only put down on the form what they want, but I really see you're being dishonest either to them or yourself. And that's my opinion. You might disagree with that. That's fine. You might have a problem with the government. They've messed marriage up anyway. Just because somebody else is out to destroy marriage, that does not mean that we have to jump in with them. Marriage is marriage. And in the world that we live in, if you say that you are married according to everything we do, people, we fill terms. And we sign them saying under penalty of law, I am saying that everything on this thing is true. And you have to do that to rent a movie somewhere. You have to sign and certify that what the information you put down is true and honest and you're not misleading in any way. Are you married? Well, not according to the state, but we are married. Then according to them, you're not married. And so it's just, that's my answer. Okay. You ask me to marry you, and I've done this before, and I don't try to be mean about it. You ask me to marry you, I do it with a certificate. Okay. That's ethical in my mind. Let me give you another illustration. We're going to talk about chimeras in a little bit. We had an older couple that started coming to our church. It's probably, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And this older couple, they were in their late 50s, early 60s, both of them. They were both living together. They were both receiving state federal government benefits. Their status was that they had a disability. Okay? I don't know what the nature of it. Both of them were on a disability government income. They came for a while. They liked the people. They liked, my preaching and they asked, they told me, the lady told me, she was real nice. She told me, she said, I don't know how you see this, but, we live together right now. We're not married. And the truth of it is, the reason why we're not married is because if we were to get married, one of us is going to lose our benefits. One of us, we're going to lose, $1,500 a month or whatever it was. And I said, I'm not requiring you to be married to come to church here. I want people who are unmarried, people who are fornicators. I want all these people to come to church. It's not a requirement that you have to be righteous and just in everything that you do in order to attend a service here at Bethel Church, because if it was, there'd be nobody here, okay? But she came down one Sunday night, invitation I gave. She came down and prayed, and I prayed with her, and she told me, she said, I would like to be baptized and join this church. I said, now we have to talk. It's a different set of rules here. So I went to their house, and I took a guy, and the guy, he had a huge problem with them even showing up at church because they were married. It's okay. He didn't go to church. He stopped going to church over this issue. And I said, look, I get it. I get it. You guys, you're on a disability income. You're not able to go out and work a job. Come to find out, the guy was flea markets every weekend selling stuff on the side and not telling the government how much money he made. That also dishonest. You're not providing honesty in the sight of all men. And I said, look, if you want to come to our church, come to our church. You want to listen to me preach, listen to me preach. If you like it, amen. If God convicts you, so be it. But you're asking me to baptize you and join our church, and I cannot do that with you living in the situation that you're in where you're not married and you are cohabitating together, and I'm assuming you're sharing a bed together. I can't do that. I can't go that far. If you want to ask Jesus into your heart, I'm right there. The woman that came to Jesus at the well, and by the way, this maybe help some of you others. Well, I was told that if we had a bad marriage and we were both lost, and we got divorced and I got saved, and I found a saved husband, and we've been married now for 20 years, and some preacher told me I have to go back to the first guy. That's not what Jesus told the woman at the well. She had husbands before, and Jesus said the guy you're with right now is not your husband. He did not tell her, go back to your first husband, or he did not tell her that. Anyway, I told him, I said, look, I sympathize with you. Our government is penalizing you for being married. And I don't think that's right. But I can't change that for you. But I also can't change God's commandments for you either. And the short of it was, in like 2 or 3 months' time, I saw the guy at the flea market, and I asked how everything was going. And he said, she threw me out. They weren't wanting to get married anyway. And I'm just saying, your life is going to be complicated, and you're going to be forced to be dishonest, either with somebody that you're dealing with for business or personal reasons, or you're going to have to be dishonest to your own self. It's that, and all because you don't want a piece of paper sitting in a government office. I mean, that's the extent of it, all right? Genesis chapter 1. Turn there. Boy, I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back. You'd be amazed at how little I talked last week on vacation. Okay? And I told the people we was with, Brother Ron Dagonia, and he had his son, daughter Cindy, and I mean, they all knew me. And the first day we were out, I said, in case you're noticing, I'm not talking much. He said, yeah. He said, you okay? I said, I'm fine. I said, I spend all my week talking, all week long. I talk about this, talk about that, talk to this person, talk to a microphone, talk to a camera, talk. And I said, I'm not talking. And Ron said, oh, is this the new you? I said, no, it's the other me. He's been here. It's his turn to come out now. So I didn't talk much last week. Talking today. Genesis chapter 1. Oh, let's see here. Verse 20, God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of the heaven. God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind. And every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and in the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. The evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind. Cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beast of the earth after his... Are you seeing? Are you getting this? When God created species, he created them to be after their own kind. That's related to the word kindred, by the way. And kindred means a familial relationship. We're family, blood, DNA. Okay? DNA. Cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. What does that tell you? That when there is a violation of God's establishment of species being after their kind, their kindred, when there is a violation of that, it is not good. It's bad. It's evil. And then, of course, God said in Genesis 26, Genesis 1:26, God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Now, here, catch this. Man is different than birds, fish, roaches, mice, dogs, cats, Sasquatches, you name it. Man is kindredly different than the other species that are on the earth. And in accordance with that, because we are in the image of God, and God has dominion over the heavens, God put us on this earth, us being made in his image. God gave us dominion over fish. And I spent all last week on a ship eating the shrimp rigatoni. Was outstanding. Anyway, God gave me dominion over shrimp. Shrimp don't eat me. I eat shrimp. God gave me dominion over cattle. Cattle does not eat me. I ate steak and hamburgers and pork chops and chicken. I ate all of that good stuff. I have dominion over fish and over the fowl and fried chicken and roasted duck and marinated chicken and all of that stuff and vegetables. I have dominion over all of that stuff. Man has dominion. Let's muddy the waters a little bit. Since God put everybody after their kind, and see, this is the logical argument here. The same thing about marriage and the same thing about laws against sodomy and all this stuff. You see, it's logical, and man right now is wanting to just overturn the apple cart and let's change all the laws, make them of none effect. So, let's take man and let's put DNA in him from a creature that he currently has dominion over. And I want you to consider the consequences of that. If, and it's true, that God gave man dominion over, let's say, a mouse or a pig. God gave us dominion over pigs. We can kill pigs at will. God does not hold us accountable for shooting pigs, killing pigs. Whether you eat them or not, you have dominion over them. It's my pig. I can kill it if I want. This preacher went to visit a man one time, this old farmer. Kind of poor family, didn't have much, but he went to visit him for a while, talked to him about coming to church, and he noticed that he was talking to the man on his front porch. He noticed there on the side, the man had a little pig over there. He got to looking, that pig had a wooden leg. He talked for he kept looking over at that pig with that wooden leg, and finally he's about ready to leave the man. He said, "Sir, I got to ask." He said, "I've been looking over there. That pig, it's got a wooden leg. What's the story here?" He said, "Sir, that pig's like one of our family." He said, "When our little baby Sally was 3 years old, she fell in the creek and was drowning, and that pig run down in there and pulled her out of the water, saved her life." And he said, "One night we had a fire and catch in the house. That pig came in and woke us all up and led us to safety and helped us put the fire out." And he said that pig is just very special to us. And preacher's thinking, well, did it get injured or what? And he said, okay. He said, "So how did it get the wooden leg?" And the farmer said, "Well, when you got a pig that good, you only eat him one ham at a time." Now, come on, that was funny. Here's an article that came out. I'll try to get this posted on the PMO Facebook page. We are veering dangerously close to something that H.G. Wells envisioned 120 years ago when he wrote The Island of Dr. Moreau. Frankenstein scientist, these are some of the articles. Frankenstein scientist developing part human, part animal chimera. The UK's Daily Mirror exclaims in May 2016, "Science wants to break down the fence between man and beast." Are you listening to this? A barrier between man and beast. Man, God, the governor and the creator of us, gave one particular species dominion over all of the other species. What then is the consequence of a man receiving and becoming part of the very thing he is to be ruling over, i.e., animal DNA? Science wants to break down the fence between man and beast, the Washington Times declared 2 months later, fearing, listen to this, that sentient animals would soon be unleashed on the world. Do you know what that means? Sentient animals. Sentience, it's one of the words related to science, and that word, coming from Latin, means knowledge, self-awareness. Think of yourself, okay? Think of yourself. Close your eyes and just imagine you looking at yourself from across the room, okay? That's really the essence of self-awareness. You have an awareness of your existence. You're not guided by what am I looking for here? You're a beast nature or instincts. You're not governed by that. You have the freedom of choice. If a plate is set down in front of you, you can say, "You know what? I'm not eating that. Take that back. I don't want that. I'm not eating that." You can make that choice. Okay? Animals, they don't choose. It's just animals cannot rationally think of themselves and be self-aware. They don't have, and I'm going to use the word ego, and that doesn't mean like cockiness or haughtiness. The Greek word ego is the word for I, like the letter I in English. I am the resurrection and life. In Greek, it is ego, I, me. I am the resurrection and life. And that's where the word ego comes from. It basically represents I, myself, an individual who makes his own choices. Sentience, self-awareness. The computer that I'm talking into right now is not a sentient being, is not aware of itself. However, are we not moving into a brave new world whereby we are on purpose? We have scientists right now who are trying to develop artificial intelligence systems modeled after the human brain that the goal is to bring a computer system online that becomes self-aware. The Matrix movies, the Matrix trilogy in the 90s, the Wachowski brothers. Now the Wachowski sisters, did you know that both of them had their stuff cut off and now they're both acting like they're women? That's like, I can't take that. The Wachowski brothers, when they wrote the Matrix series, basically, they was in a world where the computers woke up and said, you're not going to unplug me. See, that's self-awareness. You're not going to unplug me. You're not going to turn my power off. You're not going to wipe my memory. Right now, if I wanted to, I'd take this computer, turn it off, take all of its parts out, throw them away. I could, like rub them in the dirt. I could shoot holes. Oh, listen, if you've got a hard drive you're afraid somebody's going to get their hands on and get the data off of it, I'm telling you, the best data eraser that you can get is a semi-automatic rifle. And I'm not kidding. Just pound that thing with bullets. Makes the data irretrievable on it. Okay? And it's fun, too. I can do that with my computer because my computer is not a self-aware being. And yet we are working on making a self-aware computer system. There's an article. I think I still have it pulled up here. Where is it? Which one? I know I've got it in my notes. The Pentagon. Figure that out. The Pentagon. Where is it? They developed these. Here it is. These drones. These micro drones that they programmed. Let's say they got 100 drones and they're about this big. They programmed them, put 100 out there, turned them on, and the drones flying all over the place, because of their programming, they started collecting together into a swarm, into a hive. No kidding. So now we have computers that think like beasts, right? We're going to have computers that think like a god. Not only are they going to be self-aware, sentient, and say, I'm sorry. You remember HAL? 2001: A Space Odyssey? Dave Bowman is going to go in and start pulling the plug on HAL because HAL is killing everybody on the ship because of the mission. And I'm sorry, Dave, I can't let you do that. And tries to have him killed. That's self-awareness. That's sentience. The HAL says, I can't let you unplug me, Dave. Sorry, Dave, I can't let you do that. That's self-awareness. We're building that right now. We can, if a horse breaks its leg, well, we're going to have it put down. We can do that. We have dominion over them. We can take their life at will and suffer no consequences whatsoever. But what if the horse really does become like Francis the Talking Mule? Where the horse now is sentient, thinks on his own, is self-aware, and he's got a broken leg, but he doesn't want to be put down. He doesn't want to die. He wants to say, you know what? I'll live with the broken leg, but you're not killing me. I won't let you do that, Dave. What are the consequences and repercussions? That's what this article says. And we're not talking, again, 120 years ago, H.G. Wells, probably getting familiar spirits, writing about these half-human, half-animals that Dr. Moreau created. That was 120 years ago. We can do it now. We can do it. We can do it right now. Are they doing it? I don't have the evidence. But let's just say that if you took algebra, you know what an axiom is. An axiom is a statement perceived as fact that you don't really have to have a lot of evidence on. It's sort of like, it is an axiom that if you see a turtle on top of a fence post, just kind of hanging there on its turtle bottom, it is an axiom that says you don't need to actually see the proof that someone put the turtle on top of the fence post. It's just understood that the turtle did not get up there on its own. That's axiomatic. And whether or not I have the evidence that some scientists in a lab somewhere, whether it's Langley, NORAD, Area 51, Area 52, Russia, China, North Korea, Africa, what? I don't have to have the evidence in order to believe and have the idea that yes, there probably is experimentation going on right now with altering an animal's genome or a human's genome and combining them with various bits of cross-species DNA. I don't need a picture. I don't need to see the lab report. I just accept it that, yes, that's going on. The article says the hope is to implant human stem cells in an animal embryo so that it will grow specific human organs. The approach could, in theory, provide a ready-made replacement for a diseased heart or liver, eliminating the wait for a human donor and reducing the risk of organ rejection. So here's the thing. We experiment on mice and pigs and other animals, right? I mean, it's part of animal experimentation. Drug companies do it. All these bio companies do it. Everybody working on healthcare, major advancements in man's health, medicine, medical science has been done because man has dominion over mice, and the mice don't have rights. The mice cannot say, we're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. The mice can't do that. We have dominion over them. So what if an unintended consequence, because we don't know how all of the little DNA bits and bytes work. We don't understand it 100%. What if the unintended consequences of experimenting with a goat or a pig? Well, we're going to inject this pig with this DNA from men so that we can grow a second heart. And when we get the valves out of that heart, we're going to kill the pig. Who cares? How did they do pregnancy tests 40, 50 years ago? Killed a wabbit, killed a wabbit, killed a wabbit. That's how they did it. They had to kill a female rabbit. And I don't know how they did the thing with the, whatever, but okay, ma'am, you're pregnant. We did a rabbit test and you're pregnant. Why? Man had dominion over the rabbits. We'd kill a rabbit. Who cares? They'll make more, okay? That's what rabbits do. Who cares about this one rabbit? But what if the unintended consequence of a rabbit receiving, or a goat, or a pig, or a mouse receiving human DNA in its system? What if one of the unintended events causes the mouse or the pig or the goat to grow certain portions of its brain that cause it to be sentient, self-aware? Let's reverse it. Well, we've examined your DNA, sir, and we know that within 30 years you will die of heart disease. It's a guaranteed. Everybody with this genetic marker, past 50 years, all of them have died of heart disease. We, as your doctor, insurance company doctor/insurance company, your managed health group, we won't cover you. We're not going to cover you and your medical expenses to try to keep you alive, because the bottom line is you're going to die anyway of heart disease. So we're not going to spend the money on it. However, we will fix you. We have discovered that the rhesus monkey they have the cure in their DNA. And all we want to do is extract it from their DNA and put it in your genome. We can do it. We'll use the gene drive to push it through your system, and we'll fix you. We'll cure you of heart. You will be the one person out of all the people who have this genetic marker, you will be the one who doesn't die of heart disease. Now, that means this is a take it or leave it offer. If you leave it, we're not going to insure you ever, and you're going to die. Or you take it, we'll pay for it, you don't have any heart disease. How's that? So what if the unintended consequence of mixing part of this monkey's DNA in this human is that he loses a portion of his sentient ability as a man? We don't have laws for that. We don't have laws nor the ability to even comprehend how we're going to deal with this in a court. Does this man, because now he doesn't have full sentient capacity of a human being that he once had, he can't make out his own will, according to the law. He is not of a ready state of mind. He cannot have a driver's license. He cannot own property. He cannot receive government benefits. He cannot receive health insurance benefits. He's not married anymore. Why? Because he now is not the dominator over all of the species of the earth. He now is someone who is under the dominion, because part of his ability to reason and become self-aware. We don't have the courts in the United States of America for people that have mental impairments. They don't have the same legal rights that we do. They can't sign contracts. They're not able to. We treat them as, we have a group of guys that come from a group home to our church service Wednesday night, Sunday morning, and they've been doing that for years, and we love them. But not all of them. Some of those guys, they don't have the ability to sign contracts, make decisions, drive cars, make decisions about their own medical care. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Man is going to a place now where we are totally fine with giving up our dominion status and become beasts. That's what this article is not some far right extreme any rumor that flies through the internet. We're going to treat it as fact. This was written, BBC.com, British Broadcasting Company, wrote this article. These bold and controversial plans are the culmination of more than 3 decades of research. These experiments understand some of the biggest mysteries of life, delineate the boundaries between species. You see, while these people would not, if you were to ask them, do you believe in God? Well, I don't really believe that there's a God that created. There might be some sort of thing out there we don't understand, but I don't think I'd call it God. You're talking about people who don't even believe in God, and yet they accept the very laws that God established on this earth in Genesis and said, see these animals? They are animals after their kind. You see this guy here, his name is Adam. I have given him dominion because I have made him in my image. He has dominion over these animals. Even science and laws and courts recognize that difference between humans and animals. Courts all over the world, same laws, same delineation. Human is a species, and humans have rights, and these species don't have the same rights as humans. The boundaries between species and explore how a ragbag bunch of cells in the womb coalesce and grow into a living, breathing being. For millennia, chimeras. The term is chimera. It is a chimera is a combination of species. Were literally the stuff of legend. The term comes from Greek mythology, with Homer describing a strange hybrid of immortal make, not human, lion-fronted and snake behind, a goat in the middle. It was said to breathe fire as it roamed Lycia in Asia Minor. Let's see. It looked like a serpent and it breathed fire. That would be Leviathan. Job chapter 41? I'm pretty sure Leviathan's a beast. So now, the article continues. Considerable. Oh, you got to see this. You have got to see. I did not know anything like this existed. I'm going to push this window over here. I learned a term today. That term is called bilateral gynandromorphs. Bilateral gynandromorphs. Bilateral, I get it. Bi means two. Lateral means there's a distinction here. There's a line, latitude, okay? Gynandro. Gune is a Greek word for wife, woman, female. Andro is man. Gynandro, okay? Gynandromorphs. These are, look at this. These are creatures that have a sort of like a genetic malfunction. See this? This is not a fake picture here. See this? He's half male and half female. See this butterfly? It was born literally down the line, bilaterally, half male, half female. Let's see here. Here's another one. Here's another example of that. I did not know these existed. I learned something today. Now check this out. In alchemy, which is this idea that we can distill lead and then do this and do this and do this and that and this and turn your right foot and don't forget it and swing it around town, swing it around, and then you can turn lead into gold. Okay? Look at these cats. And that's like, it's freaky. That's weird. Okay? But all these alchemical books that were written in the 1600s, 1700s, when these guys were really, they were trying to find what's called the Philosopher's Stone. And the Philosopher's Stone had really nothing to do with turning lead into gold. It was all about turning humans into gods, immortals. And a lot of their illustrations had a andromorph human being, an androgynous, a human that on one half was female, and down the line, the other half was male. Okay? Look at this cardinal. It's half male and half female. See this area here? Okay? Let's see here. There's more here. There's that lobster again. That's just like, it's freaky. All right? Anyway, here's my point. Think about it. The Bible establishes, and I know I'm running out of time here. The Bible establishes this idea of
Pastor Mike, online!
Hit the wrong button. There we go. The Bible establishes this idea of the beast being like a confusion of opposites. He is the beast that is not, yet is. Revelation 13 calls the mark of the beast, it is the number of a beast and is the number of a man. Both together. How does that work? What will be the consequences of gynandromorph human beings? Where we are part a species that we are supposed to have dominion over, and yet now we have grafted them into us. Think about the consequences. If God leads that way, we'll explore that more on Thor. I'm back. I'm going to try to get a Bible study done tomorrow night, Wednesday night Bible study. Come join us live, watchbethelchurch.com. New Watchman broadcast. I'm going to try to, I think I'm ready. Get it done. Talking about the body. I got new stuff in there. You're going to love it. All right? see you. You pray for us. We pray for you. You're the reason why we do what we do here, all right? Pray for us, support us if you can. God bless you.